Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dive into Murakami's Norwegian Wood? I have to say, this book really got to me.
It's one of those stories that really stays with you, right?
Absolutely. Murakami has this way of writing. It's almost like you're not just reading about the characters, you're right there with them.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not so much about the plot, but more about the feeling,
Mhm.
The atmosphere he creates is just incredible.
Yeah, he uses all these super vivid details, these descriptions that just pull you right into the character's world.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be exploring in this deep dive, how Murakami uses sensory details, recurring themes, all that, to craft this story that really gets under your skin.
It's like he wants you to experience every single thing alongside the characters.
And it's so effective. Like, remember that scene early on, Toru and Naoko walking through the meadow?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't just say it was a breezy day, it's the October breeze, the way he describes those white fronds of head-tall grasses swaying. He even describes the wind slipping into the woods to rustle branches.
You can practically feel that breeze, smell the autumn air. Like you said, you're right there.
It's like he's triggering our own memories, our own associations with those sensations.
So true. And that makes me think about how tied to memory those experiences often are, especially in this book.
Absolutely. Memory and loss are so deeply intertwined throughout this whole thing. The way Toru experiences Naoko, even physically, it's all colored by their shared lost Kazuki.
That part where he's like remembering their last intimate encounter before Kazuki's death and comparing it to how Naoko feels to him now. My heart. That one detail really shows how grief, how guilt can change everything.
It shows how our memories, they can be a comfort, but they can also weigh us down. It's a constant reminder of what we've lost and how it changes everything.
Makes you wonder how anyone moves on, how
Yeah.
you live and love with that kind of weight on your shoulders.
And that's something Murakami explores so well, that struggle, especially as these characters are coming of age in a world that's changing so fast around them.
Yeah, it's not just about dealing with grief, it's about figuring out who you are amidst all this chaos. You've got student protests, changing values, it's a lot to handle.
And you really feel that confusion, that uncertainty in all the characters. Toru trying to figure out his feelings for Naoko and Midori, Midori dealing with her dad's illness and trying to figure out her own life. They're all just trying to find their place.
Lost in the in-between, caught between the expectations of the past and like the total unknown of the future.
It's interesting you say that because all the nature imagery, the birds, the fireflies, it all plays into that.
Oh, totally. I was actually just thinking about all the birds. They pop up everywhere in this book. What do you make of them?
Well, especially those fireflies, right? It's like they represent this idea that nothing lasts forever, that even the most beautiful things are fleeting.
Like their light is this fragile thing, easily extinguished, just like, well, it makes me think of Naoko and her time at the sanatorium.
Let's talk about that. It's almost like stepping into a different world when we go there. And it's where we see how Murakami uses setting to reflect what's going on inside the characters.
That sanatorium really is its own world. It's like time moves differently there.
It's true, yeah. And it's interesting how when we're there with Naoko, it's like all the external stuff fades away and we're really forced to focus on what's happening inside her. Her struggles with mental illness become the main focus.
And Murakami introduces us to these other characters at the sanatorium who are also dealing with so much, like Reiko with her story. It's just heartbreaking.
It's interesting how she seems so together at first, so in control.
Right.
And then you learn about her past, her breakdown, what happened with her student.
It's a lot.
It makes you realize that everyone's carrying these hidden burdens.
Yeah. Exactly. And it reminds me of how Toru describes his dorm room. On the surface, it just seems like normal student life. But when you look closer,
The details, right?
yes, cream-colored curtains, everyone's got their radios tuned to the same station.
It's like this subtle kind of conformity almost, like any sense of individuality is being stamped out.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, actually. But then you've also got those little details, the pin-up posters, the movie posters they've all stolen.
Right. Shows that these characters are still trying to hold on to some sense of themselves. Even if it's just in how they decorate their tiny little rooms.
It's like they're caught between these two worlds, the tradition and order of the past, and then this new world that's all about, like, progress and change and who knows what.
It's a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
And some characters seem to handle it better than others. Nagasawa, for example, he seemed to have it all figured out.
Yeah, he's got his sights set on Tokyo University, a prestigious career, all that. He's definitely ambitious.
And yet he's drawn to Toru.
That's true.
And Toru represents something totally different, right?
Mm.
He's not sure what he wants. He's kind of drifting.
He's searching.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I think Nagasawa was drawn to that, to Toru's lack of pretense. It's like maybe deep down, he's looking for something more genuine, too, even if he can't admit it.
Makes you wonder what he sees in those stolen posters on Toru's wall, right?
Right. Maybe a bit of himself in there, who knows. But it brings us back to that theme of order versus chaos, control versus surrender.
Totally. It's everywhere in this book. And I think the most powerful image of that is the well.
Oh, definitely. It's the symbol of the unknown, of what lies beneath the surface.
Alluring and terrifying at the same time, isn't it?
For Naoko especially. It represents those feelings that she can't escape, that pull her down.
And it makes me think about the theme of suicide, which is so central to the book. It's not just about individual despair or sadness. It speaks to something bigger, like a whole generation feeling lost, unsure of their place in the world.
Like the old ways don't work anymore, but they haven't found anything to replace them with. And Murakami doesn't shy away from that.
He makes you sit with those uncomfortable feelings, those unanswered questions.
And that's what makes Norwegian Wood so powerful, I think. He doesn't give us easy answers.
It's all about interpretation, right? We have to find our own way through this story, just like the characters. And speaking of finding your way, that ending, Tor's just left there, lost in his thoughts. We have no idea what happens to him.
He's adrift, still trying to figure things out.
I will say, it's an ending that stays with you. But before we get too lost in the melancholy, I do want to talk about Midori. Because she brings such a different energy to the story, you know?
Midori. She's like a breath of fresh air. She's the burst of color in this, like, otherwise kind of somber and subdued world.
She really is like this burst of life, you know? And it's not like her life is perfect either. She's dealing with a lot, especially with her dad being sick.
And yet she faces it head on.
She doesn't let it drag her down.
Right.
And that humor of hers.
Right.
That's what makes her so great. She's this counterpoint to Toru and his, overall mood.
She forces him to see things differently.
Yeah.
Like that scene where she makes him explain the subjunctive case.
Oh my God. Hilarious.
So Midori.
Totally. But it also shows how she just like cuts through everything, you know? She doesn't play by the rules. She's not afraid to be silly, to be vulnerable.
Exactly. And in doing that, I think she shows Toru a different way of being. She shows him that even when things are hard, you can still find joy. You can still connect with people.
Though their relationship is complicated, to say the least. I mean, Toru is obviously drawn to her, to that energy she has, but he's also so torn up about Naoko, like he feels responsible for her.
And that's the brilliance of Murakami. He doesn't make it easy for Toru, or for us.
Right. It's not like a simple choice between two different women.
It's about two completely different ways of seeing the world. Does Toru let his past dictate his future, or does he embrace the uncertainty, the messiness of it all?
And that ending. We still don't know what happens.
We leave him lost in his memories, still searching.
It's frustrating, but I get it. It's real, I guess.
It reminds us that sometimes life doesn't have easy answers. We don't always get closure. And that's okay.
And maybe that's why Norwegian Wood sticks with you. Because it's a story about loss, about love, about how we connect with each other in a world that can feel so isolating.
And as you continue to think about this book, that last line, I'm going to start over. That's what I'll do. I'll start from zero. Think about what that means for Toru and what it means for all of us.
It's a powerful note to end on.
It really is.
Thank you so much for this. This was amazing.
It's been a pleasure, really. Until next time.